Hi everyone, welcome to childbirthwithgrace.tv, and I am coming to you from location at Lake Ontario, right behind me. Isn't that beautiful? So you'll see things like boats coming in and out. And the classes, I've tried to do them live, but there's no service out here. And yesterday, we were actually en route, and we were in the mountains, in the Allegheny Mountains, and there was no service there either. So, anyway, so I'm recording it, and then I'll post it later today or tomorrow, depending on where we are and service. But either way, welcome to Childbirth with Grace. TV, and my intention is to awaken your life power to your best possible birth journey. Uh, Today, I want to talk about a little bit more serious topic. What came to mind was a case where a woman had a miscarriage, full-term miscarriage, and was being advised that the only way to deliver was to have a C-section. And right now, what's coming into my full attention is how important it is to research the advice that's given to you. And currently, I've been seeing a lot of increased rates of C-sections as a general rule. And I think it's important for me to bring to light that as a woman, you do have choices on how to deliver. Now, every once in a while, it's an emergency, but if you are in the unfortunate position where your baby has passed away before the baby's born, then there's other ways to deliver. You don't have to automatically have a C-section. And I'm not speaking to those physicians out there who give women the alternative option of no C-section, but I've had experience from women talking to me that they weren't given options, and they didn't have any medical reasons that would cause them to need a C-section. It was just it seemed to them what was like they had no choice, like this is the only way to deliver the baby that had passed away. So this message is for those women who maybe along the way are not given different options if it's a non-emergency situation. So what came to me as what to talk about today was the importance of making sure that it's okay to question your practitioner. Okay, if there's not an emergency situation going on, then it's okay to question, and you really should be with a practitioner that you have no problems talking to and questioning their advice. And one of the things you need to be aware of is that you, of course, look at how they answer. If they get really bothered by you asking them about what the advice they're giving you, then that would be a really red flag for you to maybe start looking for other practitioners, or at least get a second opinion, so that you find someone who will listen to you, number one, and will discuss options. Because if there's not an emergency, there's always options. And, you know, my main message I want to put across is that it's okay to ask questions. and and get a second opinion. Because what I found, there's some women, for whatever reason, feel like they can't question the advice that they're being given, and they just go along with it. And so this class is for those women, because you have to be careful why you get a C-section, because depending on where you live or where you move to, in some areas of the country, you're not given the option of having a vaginal birth after a C-section. And you also have to, make sure that they are able to do the incision type, which is horizontal on the uterus, that can then let you have a vaginal birth after C-section. So these are all things to talk about with your practitioner if they start talking about needing a C-section in order to deliver a baby that's passed away. Now, if there's practitioners out there that read this, rather read this, watch this, and they say, "Oh, I never do that." Well, that's great, perfect. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you or about you or whatever. There are just some people out there that a C-section is like the go-to, and they bring it up. In my experience, they've explained it to women that, oh, you're going to suffer less and that kind of thing. But in reality, I mean, if you don't want to have natural birth, and you don't want to feel the discomfort of labor, because you're also dealing with the emotions of having lost the baby, you could always get an epidural, or get some form of anesthesia, depending on your health, as always, because some people who have back problems can't get an epidural. So these are all things to just be aware of. So there's really no right or wrong in what you choose to do, as long as you're choosing to do it with informed consent. In other words, that you've really researched your options, and if you're not getting any options from your practitioner, that you've resourced outside your practitioner, even by going to a different practitioner. And my advice to you, having been a practicing midwife for many years, is when you go for a second opinion, you really should go almost even to a practitioner that delivers at a different hospital, because sometimes hospitals actually force practitioners to practice a certain way depending on their protocols and things like that. So good people to ask for second opinions are midwives, because nurse midwives, or licensed midwives, because they're the ones that have a consulting type of relationship with other practitioners. And a lot of times, because they do home births and are going to people's homes, they deal with a lot of different hospital systems. So they're able to let you know the culture of those systems, whether they're open to alternatives as to how to deliver and that kind of thing. Because there are hospitals out there that some of their protocols are to not have a vaginal birth after C-section. And that's the whole point. It is what's come to my attention is to really talk about ways to, one, avoid a C-section, and two, that if you've had a C-section, to make it possible to have a vaginal birth after C-section. So, because the C-section rate all over the country and in certain parts of the country are just way too high, and in fact they're on the high side of not being healthy. In other words, there's more risk. So where I live in South Florida, Some areas the C-section rate is as high as 68%, and that's just way out of control. Really, a C-section rate should be somewhere around closer to below 20%. Actually, should be even lower if possible. Around the whole United States, the average is around 30, 35, 39, depending on what you read. And that's ranging on too high for just even the whole country. Now, on the other hand, too low of a C-section rate is not healthy either, but the World Health Organization puts that at if it's less than 5%. So go figure. That's really rare. Back when I was pregnant with my first, I was happy with my practitioner because at the time in the town I was in, he had the lowest C-section rate and it was 12%. So well above the safety figure from the World Health Organization, but well within what's normal. So with that being said, it just, I needed to put this out there as far as if you're in that situation, particularly if you have a baby that's passed away before birth and you're full term. There's definitely ways of inducing your labor if you need to get into labor sooner than later. There's also a way you can wait for labor to come on. These are all things you have to discuss with your practitioner, but the main thing is that don't let yourself get talked into that the best scenario is just to do a C-section to have the baby. And most practitioners don't jump to that. I'm just talking about in that unfortunate case that that's what you're being told, that's your only option, unless there's an emergency because something's happening with you, like you're losing blood, or there's different cases that would cause it to be an emergency, and you'd have to just really make sure. So with that being said, on a lighter side, just so to get you caught up, my family and I have been traveling up through the United States. We're about to go to Canada today, so we're actually in the most northern section of Canada, or rather United States. I think Fort Niagara State Park, up in upstate New York, and really close to Niagara Falls. And back here is Lake Ontario. So, from last week's class, I had mentioned where last week we were in Georgia at an alpaca farm, and I gave you a tour of the farm, and that was fun. And I told you about the Abundant Love project that my son and I are doing. That's still happening. So check out the page Awaken Your Life Power, and you could see an album where Awaken Your Life Power through the Abundant Love project. And that's where we're posting all our pictures of all our wonderful love stones that we're creating and we're dispersing throughout the United States as we travel. This is a great project for you guys to do with your kids. It's fun. We've had a great time. We've had one person post so far from that found a stone in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, and that was fun to see that post. And it was actually one of the stones that my son made, so he was thrilled. And so yeah, so as always, if you've experienced a traumatic pregnancy or birth, please contact me, and I could tell you how to use tapping to get rid of the stress regarding that experience, and that way your next birth experience will be more pleasant and less triggering for you. And on my Facebook page, which is at Ilia Blandina page, there's a little book me little sign, and you can get a free consult if you want to talk about all the different things I have to offer to help you out as far as tapping, personal one-on-one sessions. Meanwhile, keep tapping and stay well, be present, and remember to let the loving tree of your celestial family awaken your life power to your best possible birth journey. So I'll see you next week, and hopefully I'll be able to be live. If not, it'll be recorded and posted the next day. So, all right, bye.